I never imagined walking into my own home and feeling like a stranger in it. The door clicked under my hand, and I called out, "Leila?" No answer. My steps echoed down the hallway. Then I heard it, a muffled laugh, the kind that didn't belong in our home. I froze. My heart thumped. "Leila?" My voice cracked. Then I saw them. Him. My wife. In our bed. My chest tightened, and a wave of nausea hit me. What the hell is this? I managed. Leila jerked upright, her eyes wide. It's not what it looks. Not what it looks. I laughed bitterly, though it came out as a strangled sound. "Leila, I know exactly what this looks like." The man scrambled for his clothes, panic written across his face. I'll go. I didn't know you'd be home." "You didn't know?" I repeated, my voice shaking with anger. "You didn't know I'd be home? Really?" My hands were trembling, but I clenched them to my sides, trying to hold my composure. Leila grabbed my arm. "Please, let me explain." I shook her off. "Explain? Explain cheating on me in our own bed? Explain lying to me every single day?" My voice rose, but I swallowed back the sob that threatened to break free. I made a mistake," she whispered. "A mistake." I stepped back, staring at the betrayal etched on her face. "Do you even hear yourself?" The man muttered something, but I didn't care. "Get out," I said flatly. "Both of you. Now." As he stumbled toward the door, I caught the neighbor glancing from behind her curtain. I avoided her eyes, not wanting anyone to see me like this, broken, humiliated, betrayed. Leila moved closer, desperation in her voice. "I love you." I was confused. I laughed, bitter and hollow. Confused? Confused doesn't end up in our bed with someone else. Confused doesn't lie every day and smile to my face. Tears welled up, but I blinked them away. "I trusted you," I said quietly. "I trusted you with my life. And this is how you repay me?" She reached for me, but I recoiled. "Don't touch me. Don't even think about it. You've ruined everything." I turned, walking toward the door. The house felt smaller now, suffocating. Every wall seemed to whisper the lie I didn't want to hear. My stomach churned, and my mind raced with questions and bitter thoughts. I didn't look back. My hand lingered on the doorknob for a second longer than necessary, wanting to memorize every detail of this betrayal, every look on her face. Then I opened the door and stepped out, the cool evening air hitting me like a slap. I walked down the driveway, pretending to be calm, while inside I burned with anger, humiliation, and disbelief. I needed a plan. I needed control. Most of all, I needed her to feel what I felt: loss, shock, helplessness. And I swore to myself, right there in the quiet night, that this wasn't over. Not even close, that I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them: Leila, laughing, lying, betraying me. I sat on the edge of the bed and muttered, how could I have been so blind? My phone buzzed. It was Malik, my friend. "Hey, you coming to the office today?" I hesitated. I don't know. You need to get out of that apartment. Seriously, you're turning into a ghost. I laughed bitterly. A ghost? Maybe I am. Maybe that's what she made me feel. Don't do this to yourself, man. Talk to me. I can't, I whispered. I can't even think straight. Every memory feels fake. Malik's voice softened. I get it. But hiding won't help. You need to face it, somehow. I ran my hands through my hair. Face it? Face the fact that she chose someone else? That our life, everything we built, it meant nothing. Not everything. You're still here. You still have control over your life. Don't let her take that from you. I sighed. I trusted her completely. Every little thing I did, every compromise, and she betrayed me. And I didn't even see it coming. You didn't see it because you wanted to see the good. That's not weakness. That's human. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Human, yeah. Human to be deceived. Human to be humiliated in my own home. Human to feel like I can't breathe. Malik's silence on the line felt comforting. Listen, you can't undo what happened. But you can decide what happens next. Don't let her betrayal destroy you. Use it. Change it. Change it, I repeated, the words echoing in my head. I could crumble. Or I could take control. Exactly. You've always been smart, calculated. Don't waste it on pity. I closed my eyes, remembering the look on her face when I left. Shame. Fear. Regret. And I realized, she hadn't earned my pity. She had earned a reckoning. I don't know if I'm ready, I admitted. You don't have to be ready yet. Just start. One step. One decision. Own your life again. I swallowed hard. One step. I think I can do that. Malik chuckled softly. Good. I'll hold you to it. Don't disappear on me again. I won't, I promised, my voice steadier than before. After hanging up, I sat in the dark, thinking. I replayed the betrayal, the lies, the laughter in my bed. And then, amidst the anger and pain, a strange clarity emerged. I could crumble, or I could reclaim my life. And I wasn't ready to be weak. Not anymore. I couldn't stop thinking about that day. The image of her with him kept looping in my head. But grief wasn't enough anymore. Anger was taking over, sharpening my thoughts. I muttered to myself, there's more than heartbreak here. There's leverage. There's control. I picked up my laptop and started digging into her company, the one she always said was just a hobby. Hobby, my ass, I whispered, scrolling through her emails and corporate filings. She had made mistakes, sloppy contracts, overspending, weak partnerships. I noted them all meticulously. My phone buzzed. It was Tariq, an old mentor from the business world. I heard you're dealing with some personal stuff. You okay? I'm alive, I replied dryly. Barely. Tariq chuckled softly. Barely isn't enough. You've always been smart. Don't waste your talent crying over betrayal. I know, I admitted. It's just, I want her to feel some of what I felt. But I don't want to be obvious. Subtlety is key. Anger can blind you. Control it. Use it strategically. Think chess, not checkers, he said, his voice calm but firm. I leaned back, letting his words sink in. Chess, yes. I need to see the board, all the pieces, before I make a move. Exactly. Look at her business like a puzzle. Weaknesses, alliances, loyalty. Find the pressure points. You already have an advantage, she thinks you're broken. That's your opening. I nodded, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. She doesn't know I'm capable of this. She never saw me as dangerous. Tariq's tone grew serious. Dangerous doesn't mean violent. It means strategic. Patience. Observation. Timing. Let her make the mistakes. You'll only need to nudge. I stared at the spreadsheet I had just created. Contracts, client lists, cash flow, partners. I marked everything that could be exploited. She's sloppy, I muttered. She's arrogant, and arrogance blinds people. Good. Now write down your goals. Don't just think revenge, think control. You want leverage over her world, not just satisfaction. I scribbled notes furiously. Leverage. Control. Public humiliation is optional. I just need her to recognize who has the upper hand. Remember, Tariq warned, the moment you get emotional, you lose clarity. Keep this about the plan, not the pain. I swallowed, nodding. I can do that. I'll control this. I'll own it. After the call, I leaned back in my chair. The first flicker of satisfaction appeared, not from seeing her fail yet, but from knowing I had a path. I had the advantage, and she had no idea. I whispered to myself, this isn't revenge yet. It's preparation. Observation. Strategy. Step 1 of the plan. My pulse quickened with anticipation. Finally, heartbreak had transformed into something sharper, something I could direct. Something that would ensure she'd regret ever thinking she could betray me without consequence. I closed the laptop for the night, but sleep didn't come. Instead, I drafted mental scenarios, each move, each counter, each piece of leverage I could wield. The thought of her helpless, realizing I was always one step ahead, made my chest tighten with a thrill I hadn't felt in weeks. The cold calculation was complete. The game had begun that I walked into the office for the first time as more than just her husband. I was a stakeholder, though she didn't know it yet. Every step down the hallway felt like reclaiming territory. My heart thumped, but it wasn't fear, it was anticipation. Good morning, sir, said Amina, her tone polite, professional. She was Leila's assistant, loyal to her boss, but unaware of my presence in the company. Morning, I replied smoothly, keeping my voice steady. I'd like to review the quarterly reports today. Can you prepare the projections? Amina hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded. Of course. I'll have them on your desk shortly. I watched her leave and whispered under my breath, not bad. Loyal, efficient, predictable. I turned to the conference room and found Raza, a trusted employee, reviewing charts on his laptop. Raza, I said casually, I was thinking, maybe we could adjust the client portfolio strategy. Some high-risk accounts could be shifted to safer options. He blinked, surprised. Are you sure? That's not how Leila usually approaches it. I know, I said, smiling faintly. But consider this, a small adjustment now could prevent bigger losses later. Trust me on this. He hesitated, then nodded slowly. All right, we can implement that. If you think it's wise. Good, I said. I like efficiency. And foresight. I watched him leave and felt a thrill. Every small nod of agreement, every tiny decision influenced, gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in weeks. Later, I intercepted Leila in the hallway. She looked up from her phone, frowning. You're here, early, she said, her voice tight. Yes, I said smoothly. Thought I'd see how the company's running. Things must be challenging, managing everything. Her lips twitched, a smirk I remembered all too well. It's nothing I can't handle. I'm sure, I said, letting a faint edge creep into my tone. But even the most capable leaders need perspective. Fresh eyes can catch what's overlooked. She narrowed her eyes but didn't respond further. I let her go, walking away with a subtle satisfaction. I could see the arrogance in her, the confidence she still carried. But now, I had the leverage to bend it, quietly. That afternoon, I called Raza back. One more thing. Review the vendor contracts. Some terms are outdated, and renegotiating could strengthen our position. Understood, he said, again trusting me over the absent Leila. I leaned back, fingers steepled, thinking. Every small adjustment, every whispered suggestion, every subtle manipulation, these were the pieces of a puzzle only I could solve. And she, brilliant yet blinded by pride, had no idea who was reshaping her world. Amina passed by again, glancing at me cautiously. Sir, the reports are ready. Excellent, I said, opening them. I studied every line, every discrepancy, making mental notes for the next step. I muttered quietly, it's working. Slowly, she's walking right into it. Even as my mind raced with strategy, the familiar ache of betrayal lingered beneath my confidence. Pain and cunning intertwined, sharpening me. By the time the day ended, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I wasn't just in her world, I was in control, and every move I made from here would count. I didn't have to wait long. She noticed. Leila's heels clicked sharply down the hallway, her expression a mix of suspicion and arrogance. Why are some of the client decisions different? She demanded as soon as she reached me. I'm just reviewing the numbers, I said calmly, keeping my tone neutral. Adjustments seemed necessary. Adjustments? You're not in charge here, she snapped, her eyes narrowing. I've handled this company for years. I know what's best. I never said otherwise, I replied, faintly amused. But even the best leaders can miss details. Fresh eyes are helpful. Her jaw tightened. I don't need your advice. I don't need anyone's advice. Especially not yours. I smiled coldly, letting a hint of condescension slip through. Interesting. You seem uncomfortable. Are you sure you're still in control? Her face flushed, pride clashing with uncertainty. Of course I am. Everything is fine. You're imagining things. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. Am I? Because Raza just implemented my suggestions without hesitation. And has always followed you before. She glanced at the office door, caught off guard, then back at me. Raza? That's trivial. He listens to everyone. Don't exaggerate his loyalty. I'm not exaggerating. He trusts me now. And you seem distracted. Maybe too much on the surface and not enough beneath it. Her eyes narrowed further, but I could see the uncertainty flicker. You're trying to manipulate me, she said, but the accusation lacked conviction. I'm not trying anything, I said softly, letting the words drip like poison. I'm just observing. Curious how someone so capable can overlook so many small vulnerabilities. Leila's smirk faltered. Vulnerabilities? I don't have vulnerabilities. You don't know what you're talking about. Do I not? I replied, letting my voice drop to a whisper. Because you missed that renegotiation clause. You overlooked the client complaint. You're human, Leila. And humans make mistakes. Even the arrogant ones. Her hands clenched into fists. I don't make mistakes. Not in my company. Not in my life. I stepped closer, letting my eyes lock onto hers. Not yet. But it's only a matter of time. Control is fragile. And pride can blind even the smartest leaders. She blinked, her arrogance flickering, replaced by a brief, uneasy pause. I felt a thrill of satisfaction, but I also felt something I hadn't expected, a pang of the old affection I once held for her. I shook it off. Don't worry, I said, voice cold again. I'm not here to take anything away from you. I'm just curious to see if you notice the shifts as they happen. Leila's lips pressed together, silent, her pride warring with the creeping doubt. She turned abruptly and walked away, but I could see her glancing over her shoulder. I whispered under my breath, a mixture of anger and satisfaction, that's it. Let the cracks show. Let the fear start. And yes, she'll feel some of what I felt. Even as I watched her retreating figure, I reminded myself that lingering feelings didn't mean weakness. Pain, pride, and power all intertwined now. I would use every emotion as fuel, my cold calculation paired with the sharp sting of betrayal. By the time the office quieted down, I knew something important: she wasn't untouchable. Arrogance made her predictable, and pride made her vulnerable. And I would exploit both. That I stared at the signed documents in my hand, the confirmation still sinking in. 51%. Majority ownership. Yet no one in the company knew the truth, not even Leila. I walked into the office quietly. Raza caught up with me immediately. Sir, do you want me to move the meeting to noon? He asked. Yes, I said. And tell the team to prioritize the vendor report. It's more urgent than they think. He nodded without hesitation. He followed my orders without knowing who I truly was. The irony tasted sweet. Leila's door swung open. Why is the schedule changing again? She demanded. Raza looked at me, uncertain. I tilted my head slightly and said, because productivity increases when the morning is left uninterrupted. Leila folded her arms. And who decided that? Raza swallowed. I thought it would help. I almost smiled. My quiet influence was spreading perfectly. She gave him a cold stare. Don't make changes without consulting me. I'll be more careful, he said quickly. I stepped in calmly. He's just trying to optimize things. No need to worry. Her eyes flicked to me suspiciously. Why are you everywhere lately? Maybe you're just noticing me more, I replied. She scoffed and walked off, but her pace was tense. I felt the shift happening, the first crack in her confidence. And I had caused it with barely a whisper. Later, in the conference room, Sana, another key employee, approached me. Sir, should I finalize the supplier contract today? She asked. Yes, I replied. But negotiate for a 4% reduction. They'll agree if you mention delays. She blinked. How do you know that? I listen, I said simply. Leila entered the room and frowned when she saw Sana talking to me. What's going on? She demanded. Sana straightened. Just confirming the negotiation strategy. Leila turned to me sharply. Why is everyone suddenly asking you for approval? Maybe because I give clear instructions, I said. People appreciate structure. Her jaw clenched. This is my company. Of course, I said softly. I'm only helping where I can. Her glare lingered, but beneath it I sensed something new, fear. Fear that control was slipping. Fear that someone else was holding the strings. Fear that she was no longer the unquestioned center of her empire. I leaned back in my chair during the meeting, observing as employees aligned naturally with my suggestions. Every nod, every question directed at me, every moment she felt bypassed, it fed my sense of justice and my anger. But there was something else inside me too, something uncomfortable. Was I crossing a line? Was this still revenge, or becoming something darker? As the meeting ended, Sana approached again. Should we prepare for next quarter's expansion? She asked. Yes, I said. But keep it between us until the numbers stabilize. She nodded. Understood. When she left, I exhaled slowly. My guidance, my decisions, my strategy, everything flowed through the company like a silent current. And yet the moral weight lingered. I'm not destroying her, I whispered to myself. I'm taking back control. But the line between those two things was becoming thin, dangerously thin. Leila confronted me again in the hallway. Why do I feel like things are changing behind my back? She asked. Maybe because you're losing touch, I said calmly. Maybe because control isn't permanent. She stared at me, stunned. You think you can run things better than me? I think I already am. Her breath caught, pride trembling. Who do you think you are? I stared straight into her eyes. A man who finally understands leverage. She stepped back, unsure for the first time. And in that moment, I felt the shift completely. My rise, her fear, the changing balance of power. The game had officially begun. I watched from my office window as chaos quietly unfolded downstairs. Leila had made a misstep, one I had anticipated and nudged along without anyone realizing. Leila, these numbers don't make sense, said Armin, a senior client liaison, approaching her desk. We're missing projected revenue from 3 major accounts. She blinked, then snapped. What? That's impossible. I triple-checked everything. I leaned back, letting a small, satisfied smile play across my face. The first real crack was showing. Sir, I can explain, she said, voice tight as she turned to the next employee. I need a solution, not excuses, Armin replied sharply. I caught a glimpse of her frustration, the subtle tremor of doubt creeping into her posture. Prideful, cunning Leila, now faced with consequences she hadn't prepared for. Later, in a meeting room, I overheard the competitor, Nadia, speak with a client. Leila's team seems disorganized lately. Maybe we should consider alternative partners. I smirked. Even the secondary antagonist was noticing the vulnerabilities I had orchestrated. Leila's assistant, Amina, tried to reassure her. It's just a small oversight, Leila. You can fix it. I can't believe this is happening, Leila muttered under her breath. Everything is slipping. I whispered to myself, a mixture of triumph and guilt. She built this empire, and now it's unraveling because of me. An email alert pinged on my laptop. I opened it casually. Client complaints, minor but consistent, all strategically guided by my earlier suggestions. Leila's mismanagement looked worse than it was. She stomped toward Raza, muttering, How did this happen? Who let this slip? Raza shrugged nervously. I followed your instructions, but maybe I misunderstood. You misunderstood, she repeated, voice rising. Everything is unraveling. I've never seen such incompetence. I felt a pang, not just of satisfaction, but of something darker, what love turned into when betrayed. Watching her crumble was intoxicating, but I also remembered the woman I once adored. I leaned back in my chair and murmured, betrayal turns affection into something sharp, something I can wield. Minutes later, she confronted me in the hallway, voice trembling slightly. Why is everyone listening to you more than me? I smiled coldly, letting the tiniest trace of mockery slip through. They just appreciate clarity, Leila. Nothing more. She stared at me, lips pressed tightly together. I've built this company. I've earned every part of it. How are you suddenly everywhere? Timing, I said smoothly. Observing. Guiding. Sometimes mistakes happen, and someone needs to steer the ship. Her eyes narrowed, fear mixed with indignation. For the first time, she questioned her own control. I could see it in the way she straightened her shoulders, faltered, and glanced around the room. Next time, I added quietly, maybe double-check your assumptions before delegating. She flinched almost imperceptibly. I had planted doubt without a word of overt attack. Her pride was bruised, her confidence shaken. I exhaled slowly, trying to mask the inner conflict. Triumph tasted sweet, but a shadow lingered, a reminder that manipulation, no matter how calculated, still carried weight. The cracks in her world were forming. My control was solidifying. And somewhere deep inside, I acknowledged the truth. Revenge was no longer just a thought. It was becoming a reality I could direct entirely. That I watched her pacing outside my office, a storm of anxiety and pride wrapped into one tense frame. You're late, I said casually as she entered. Leila froze. Late? For what? Her voice was sharp, defensive. For the board review. Or maybe you forgot. I let the words hang in the air. The tiniest smirk curled at my lips. She clenched her fists. I didn't forget anything. Everything is under control. Under control? I echoed, raising an eyebrow. Raza said there was a discrepancy in the client files. And Sana, she seemed hesitant about your last directive. Leila's face paled, then hardened. They were mistaken. You're exaggerating. I leaned back, letting her paranoia grow. Maybe I am. Or maybe, you're the one losing sight of your own authority. Her eyes flicked to the doorway, and I followed her gaze. A familiar figure lingered for a second, her lover, Amir, who had somehow gained access for a meeting. He froze when he saw me. Amir. Leila whispered, a mix of fear and relief in her voice. I was just, he faltered. Stay out of this, I said smoothly. My voice carried a calm menace that made both of them pause. Focus on the project. We don't need distractions. Leila's shoulders tensed. You're trying to control everything. Everyone listens to you more than me now. Control? I asked innocently. I'm just observing. Curious how you manage so many moving pieces. Her gaze darted toward Amir again. You're twisting things. He said I mismanaged the files. You're manipulating him. Me? Manipulating? I shook my head, letting disbelief lace my tone. I wouldn't dare. Perhaps, he's seeing things more clearly than before. Leila swallowed, frustration and fear mingling on her face. Everything is turning against me, she admitted quietly. Everything? I repeated softly. Or maybe just your perception of it. She stared at me, eyes wide, voice trembling. I can't trust anyone anymore. You, Raza, Sana, even Amir. Everyone is plotting without telling me. That's the danger of arrogance, I said. People notice more than you think. They respond to competence, not pride. Amir shifted uncomfortably. Leila, maybe he's right. Some of the processes. I did notice issues before. She whirled on him. You're siding with him? After everything? I'm not siding, Amir said, panic rising. I'm just trying to help. I let the room simmer with tension, savoring the subtle fear etched into her features. Every glance, every hesitation, every doubt, I had orchestrated it all with precision. And yet, as I watched her crumble, a knot twisted inside me. Revenge was intoxicating, yes, but it came with a cost. The echo of love lost, now sharpened into something cruel. I don't understand how this is happening, she whispered, almost to herself. Everything I built, falling apart. I stepped closer. You're not falling apart. You're learning that power is fragile. And karma, sometimes karma wears the face of someone you trusted. She flinched. You're enjoying this. I am, I admitted quietly. But only because you made me. Only because betrayal turned love into vigilance. Justice, perhaps, is cruel sometimes. Her lips trembled, eyes glassy. I turned, letting her stew in doubt and fear. Psychological warfare had begun. And I was winning. Leila stormed into my office, her heels slamming like thunder. I know it's you, she shouted, eyes wild, face flushed. I looked up calmly, fingers steepled. You do? Yes. Don't play innocent with me. You've been orchestrating everything, the mistakes, the mismanagement, the whispers, the everything. Her voice cracked, panic overtaking pride. I've been guiding, yes, I said softly. Subtle nudges. Just enough for clarity to emerge. You monster, she screamed, pacing. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? To my life? I do, I said, watching her unravel. And you know what? You built this life. I simply made you notice the cracks that were already there. Her hands trembled as she gestured wildly. I trusted you. I loved you. And you've destroyed me from the inside. I wouldn't call it destruction, I said. I'd call it revelation. Her eyes filled with tears. Revelation? This is humiliation. You're humiliating me. I suppose it depends on perspective, I replied, calm as glass. I could expose everything to the board. Every mistake, every vulnerability. But I haven't. She froze. You could? Her voice trembled. All of this, you could ruin me completely? I could, I said, letting the pause hang. But I haven't. Yet. You're merciless, she whispered, stepping closer. Why? Why are you doing this? I leaned back, meeting her gaze steadily. Because you betrayed me. You lied, you deceived. You left me alone in the ruins of what we built together. But I also know, humiliation isn't always necessary. Sometimes restraint teaches more. She staggered back, voice hoarse. Restraint? You've made my employees question me. My clients are doubting me. Everything is slipping, and you're smiling? I'm not smiling, I said quietly. I'm observing. Watching someone who thought themselves untouchable realize their fragility. Watching pride clash with consequence. Her lips quivered. You could crush me completely. And yet, she glanced down, broken. You're holding back. Why? I hesitated, just slightly. Because complete destruction wouldn't be justice. It would be cruelty. And I'm not cruel. Not completely. Her eyes widened, a mixture of fear, relief, and disbelief. So, you're giving me a choice. I'm giving myself a choice, I corrected gently. Expose you fully, let the world judge, or maintain control silently. Mercy has its value, as does patience. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Mercy, patience, you sound like the man I once loved. If he existed. Maybe he did, I said softly, letting her hear the faintest trace of past tenderness. But he's gone. Now, only calculation remains. She slumped into a chair, trembling. Then, what will you do? I stood, walking slowly around my desk, letting the weight of every word sink in. I will watch, guide, and decide when it's time. For now, you remain intact. But every move you make, every misstep, I see. I control the narrative. Her eyes darted up at me, fear and awe mingling. I understand. Good, I said, finally. Calm. Collected. The power shift complete, yet tempered. Mercy chosen, for now. I stepped onto the stage with a calm that felt unreal, as if every breath I took echoed the years that led me to this moment. Good morning, everyone, I said into the microphone. Let's begin. The conference room filled with executives, directors, and shareholders, every person whose vote mattered. Whispers rolled through the room as Leila entered behind me. Her eyes were wide, frantic, the kind of panic that once would have torn me apart. Now it only steadied me. What are you doing? She whispered harshly. Why are you leading this meeting? This is my. I cut her off quietly. Not anymore. She staggered. You can't be serious. I warned you weeks ago, I replied, still low enough that only she could hear. You chose not to listen. Before she could respond, the chairman cleared his throat. Let's proceed. We're here to vote on the emergency motion submitted last night. Leila shot me a sharp look. You filed an emergency motion. Yes, I said. For full executive control. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Leila raised her voice. This is ridiculous. You can't bypass protocol. I didn't, I answered calmly. I followed every rule you thought I didn't know. Her voice cracked. Why are you doing this to me? You know why. She shook her head aggressively. No, I don't. I don't understand any of this. I leaned closer. You cheated on me. You used me. You tried to ruin my future. That was enough reason, wasn't it? Her lips trembled. But you loved me. I did, I said. Until you made sure I couldn't. Before she could speak again, the chairman addressed the room. We'll hear both sides before voting. He gestured to me. You first. I stepped forward. 4 years, I dedicated myself to building the strategic backbone of this company. I proposed expansions, partnerships, and restructuring that were dismissed. Not because they were flawed, but because the internal politics prioritized favoritism over growth. I paused deliberately. Yesterday, I secured a unanimous agreement from our investors for a new direction, one that requires steady leadership. Leila blurted out, you manipulated them. No, I said calmly, I informed them. She threw her hands up. About what? Lies? About your misuse of authority, I said. Your bias. Your absence. Your questionable decisions. They saw the decline, Leila. They just needed context. Gasps again. Every word stung her. You're destroying me, she whispered. You destroyed yourself, I replied. The chairman nodded. Leila, your turn. She stumbled to the podium, hands shaking. I want to be honest, she said, voice raw. I've made mistakes. Personal ones. I hurt someone I shouldn't have. But that doesn't make me unfit to lead. It does, someone muttered from the back. Leila tried to push through. I can fix things. I just need time. And support. I exhaled softly. The desperation in her voice was painful to watch, even now. Tell them everything, I said quietly, but the microphone caught it. She froze. What? You heard me. Her eyes glistened. If I admit all of it, will you stop this? No, my voice stayed steady. But it will give them clarity. She trembled. I don't want to be humiliated. You humiliated me, I said, finally letting the weight of it into my tone. In our home. In my career. In every room where you whispered that I didn't deserve a future. She shook her head repeatedly. I'm sorry. I swear I am. I'll do anything, just don't take everything from me. I'm not taking anything, I said. You lost it. The room fell silent. The chairman raised his hand. We'll vote. Leila grabbed my arm. Please, she begged. Please don't do this. I know what I did. I know I broke you. But I'm begging you, not like this. I looked at her, really looked at her. The fear, the regret, the shattered pride. For a moment, I felt the echo of who we used to be. Then I let it fade. This isn't about revenge anymore, I said. This is about truth. Votes were cast, fast, decisive, irreversible. The chairman read the results. The motion passes. Effective immediately, full executive control transfers to. He said my name. A wave of applause followed. Not loud. Not triumphant. Just inevitable. Leila covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Please, she whispered again. Have mercy. I stepped toward her. I won't expose your personal life, I said. I won't drag your name through the dirt. But your position here, it's over. She sobbed. Why show me mercy now? Because I became someone better, I said. Because I had to. Her knees buckled, and she sank into a chair. I never thought you'd win, she whispered. I didn't win, I said softly as I walked past her. I just finished what you started. And for the first time in years, I felt free. I sat in my office late at night, the city lights blurred through the glass. Silence pressed in from every direction. I should have felt relief, but the emptiness was heavier than I expected. Raza, I said when my phone buzzed. Come up. I need to talk. A few minutes later, he entered quietly. You okay, sir? I shook my head. I won. Everything's mine. The company, control, but why doesn't it feel like victory? Raza frowned. Maybe because winning isn't everything. I laughed bitterly. I thought it would be. I thought seeing her broken would fix all the nights I spent replaying betrayal in my head. You did what you had to do, he said cautiously. She caused it. Caused it. I repeated. Yes, she betrayed me. Yes, she lied. But every decision I made, the manipulations, the control, the slow dismantling of her world, was deliberate. I crossed lines I swore I wouldn't. Raza nodded slowly. Sometimes justice feels heavy. Even when it's deserved. I've lost sleep. I've watched my own morality stretch thin. I've turned love into vengeance, I admitted. And for what? Satisfaction? Closure? Maybe. But it's hollow. Raza leaned against the desk. You're human. You're allowed to feel this. Even the strongest can struggle with aftermath. I stared out the window, recalling the look on Leila's face when the vote passed. Pride shattered. Fear. Regret. And me, calm, calculating, but quietly wounded inside. I keep thinking about trust, I murmured. About how easily it can be broken. And if it can ever be rebuilt. Can I trust anyone again? Or is this the new normal? Raza was silent for a moment. You rebuild, but not the same. You learn. You guide yourself, but you also heal. I shook my head, a faint smile tugging at my lips. Healing. That's a strange word for what feels like a wound stitched shut with strategy and patience. He chuckled softly. Maybe, sir. But wounds fade. Even the deepest ones. I remembered the sleepless nights, watching, calculating, questioning my own morality with every subtle move I made. I realized revenge had changed me, not just externally, but in every quiet thought, every moral compass adjustment, every lingering emotion. I don't regret taking control, I said finally. I just regret what it required from me. What it made me into. Raza nodded. Then maybe that's the lesson. Power, control, justice, they're all intoxicating, but the cost is always internal. I exhaled, letting the weight ease slightly. I wanted closure. Maybe I have it now. Not the sweet victory I imagined, but a bitter, necessary understanding. And now? He asked. I looked out at the city again, wide and infinite. Now, I rebuild. Not her life. Not the past. Mine. And I make sure. I never hand my trust away blindly again. Raza smiled faintly. That sounds like progress, sir. Yes, I said softly. Progress. Slow, deliberate, and finally mine. I walked into my office on the first morning after full control was officially mine. The sun spilled through the windows, casting a warm glow over polished surfaces. It should have felt empty, but it didn't. I felt clarity instead. Raza stepped in, coffee in hand. First day as the head, sir. Feeling victorious. I shook my head, smiling faintly. Not victorious. Focused. Calm. That's enough. He raised an eyebrow. Calm after everything? I leaned against the desk. Everything that happened taught me patience, observation, restraint. I won without cruelty this time. That matters. Leila? He asked carefully. I paused. Leila is left to her choices. I've seen her regret, her suffering, and it's fitting. I don't need to destroy her further. The consequences of her betrayal are her own burden. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. And the company? I glanced around, eyes resting on the walls lined with accomplishments. It needs rebuilding, not of strategy or profit alone, but of trust. Among employees, partners, myself. I won't let vengeance dictate my leadership anymore. Later, I walked through the office floor. Employees greeted me cautiously, some unsure of how much had changed, some relieved that stability returned. I made a point to speak directly, to smile sincerely, to listen. Good morning, sir, Raza said, following behind. Morning, I replied. Let's make today about clarity and collaboration. Everyone has a role. Let's respect that. Small nods, tentative smiles. For the first time in weeks, the energy felt genuine, not manipulated. In the corner, I glimpsed Leila's former assistant, Amina, exchanging glances with her colleagues. I wondered if news of Leila's downfall had reached her yet. The thought didn't bring joy or triumph, only reflection. Power is fleeting. Integrity, or at least its careful imitation, lasts longer. I returned to my office later, looking at the city skyline. Memories flashed, Leila's betrayal, the heartbreak, the sleepless nights spent calculating every step of revenge. Each choice had led here. I had controlled the narrative, yes, but at a cost. Nights haunted by my own morality, moments questioning whether I had become what I despised. The phone buzzed. Raza's text, meeting at 3. We can outline the new strategy. I smiled softly. Progress, slow and deliberate. No manipulation. No malice. Only focus. I thought back to Leila. Did she ever reflect on what she lost? Did regret shape her as much as it did me? I didn't need the answers. The lesson was enough. Trust is fragile. Betrayal leaves scars. And karma, however delayed, has its way. Later that evening, I received an unexpected message from an anonymous sender. A short note, I see now. I understand. I'm sorry. Leila. I didn't reply. Silence was enough. Lessons need no commentary. I turned my attention back to work, planning growth initiatives, team-building strategies, and personal goals. This time, leadership felt different, mature, deliberate, and tempered by experience. I could feel the weight of responsibility without the weight of vengeance pressing on me. Raza knocked softly before entering. Sir, it's quiet tonight. You okay? I nodded. Better than okay. I'm ready. To rebuild. To trust cautiously. To lead without malice. He smiled faintly. Sounds like a new beginning. Yes, I said, letting the words linger. A true beginning. One built on reflection, control, and understanding. Betrayal taught me, revenge sharpened me, but growth defines me. I walked to the window again, looking at the horizon. Lights blinked across the skyline, each one a reminder that life moves forward, regardless of the past. I had learned to move with it, to embrace personal strength, to accept scars as part of the journey. And somewhere, I knew, Leila's fate remained hers to carry, silent, distant, a moral echo of her choices. I didn't need to witness it. Justice had already been served, in ways both seen and unseen. I exhaled deeply, letting the tension dissolve. For the first time in years, I felt light. Free. In control, not just of a company, but of my life, my choices, and my future. The city stretched before me, vast and infinite. And I, finally, was ready.